roots, rock, reggae, the music of Jamaican history.
The gang is a mystic man, you know?
Them nervous, but the whole place a crime.
Firstly, chatting as a Garveyite.
Even the term Collibud originates from Welcome to the music of Jamaican history. Historically, big events in popular culture attract a curious public. And when you combine these events with the music from the coinciding era, what results is a combination that not only informs, but entertains. Hence our program, the music of Jamaican history. Now, to fully understand this concept that we've created, it is important to differentiate that it is not the history of Jamaican music, but rather the music of Jamaican history. This beckons the ever-intriguing question, does the time make the music, or the music recall the time? The music of Jamaican history is a non-linear series that propels the listener through 100 years of Jamaican headlines, from 1920 to the present, while matching up the tunes that coincide the era, sharing nearly equal time between both elements with thousands of songs, and 100 years of Jamaica developing into what it is today. As you can imagine, the possibilities are nearly endless. The music of Jamaican history.
It takes our love to do it. It takes our love to do it. To drive the devil.
The music of Jamaican history.
Some of the society people say if you kill off the Rasta.
That man is a man where the government fight him very hard, and he fight them very hard.
I say, I'm gonna put on an iron shirt and chase Satan out of earth. I'm gonna put on an iron shirt and chase the devil out of earth. I'm gonna send him to outer space to find another race.
Hello and welcome back to the music of Jamaican history. Today we will introduce our newest program, Leonard Percival Howell, the first Rasta, Part 2. Please enjoy this ongoing series here on the music of Jamaican history.
Positive, yeah, yeah, yeah. Positive, yeah, yeah, yeah. In a positive way, oh yes, oh yes.
As Howell was transitioning back into society at the prison in late 1936, he was in association with a few upper-class people such as Albert Chang, the leader of the Chinese community. Howell becomes business partners with Eddie Hanna, a merchant from Lebanon, and Baba Tuari, the Indian leader, was also an acquaintance.
It's
didn't bring a religion. He was just telling you the God truth.
You will see a small risk given in return.
Welcome to the music of Jamaican history.
You are feeling fine again. Cause negativity, oh, we don't want it around. That is
make we go down at Last Market. We go buy banana. We have to go 50 get one finger. We go peddler pan it. Come we go down, come we go down. Come we go down at Last Market. Come we go down, come we go down. We go buy banana. We have to all of the green banana.
Yo, come and murder them now.
If Jah is by my side, I won't hide. No, I won't hide.
Leader of the poor, Leonard Howell is a figure to lead the poor black society and to challenge the politicians. He marries Tinette Bent from a well-known family from St. Elizabeth Parish, an upper-class young woman.
If Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? If Jah is standing by my side.
But not soon after, he would attract the attention of local political leader, moneylender, and soon-to-be Prime Minister Alexander Bustamante. Roots rock reggae, the music of Jamaican history.
Rastafari have their own language, what does not written in any book, but written upon the heart of every man that says Rastafari.
Bustamante writes the colonial secretary and asked to have Leonard Howell arrested. Leonard Howell had been in close contact with George Padmore, the rising star of black communism. Howell believed in the idea of socialism and the possibilities or the erosion of classes in society.
Without hesitation, you cry and call on Jah name. Yet when He helps you from your what a war in Africa. What a war.
What is this?
Leonard Howell was the first one to point to Haile Selassie as the Black Messiah.
This spoke volumes to the radical black Caribbeans who wanted a certain order where there was no social or racial barriers. They only wanted a system where they could find a livelihood or a means of living where there was communion. This is the means that Leonard Howell had in his great influence.
Delivered to the world, the only major religion of the century.
This time, with the island brewing in turmoil, Howell's ideas of Marxist idealism had no place, not yet. Welcome to the music of Jamaican history. For at this time, with the island brewing, Howell is arrested. The governor was given a plan to hang him, but the governor rejects this. It is no time to martyr Leonard Howell. Instead, Leonard Percival Howell is sent to the lunatic asylum.
Leonard Percival Howell spreading the word that you are bowing to the wrong king. Do not pay your taxes to the wrong king. Rastafari. This is the King of Kings. His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, Selassie I, Bustamante said, lock him up. This man is mad.
May 1939. Deep in the mountains of Jamaica, a handful of rebels found a community. It's called the Pinnacle, the village of the first Rastas.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Envy no one, no wish to be with.
Howell plotted while behind the bars of the Bellevue Asylum to escape the clutches of politicians and to create a new state, far away from Babylon.
The music of Jamaican history.
In 1939, the Honorable Leonard Howell founded Jamaica's first self-sufficient agro-industrial community in the hills of St. Catherine. At Pinnacle, thousands of Rastas came together in an economic activity never before known outside of forced enslavement in Jamaica.
For Alexander Bustamante was saying this then and again in the 1950s. Howell was approving for spirituality while Bustamante was recruiting for political gain. Howell was spreading the word that he was a child of God. His father was the King of Kings. Jah was our father.
They call us squatters. How could you squat when you're born here?
They came under numerous attacks from the police, from the colonial system, and also from citizens who didn't understand what it means when Leonard Howell was preaching about the black Messiah, the black God, the kingdom of Ethiopia, the kingdom of Africa. And so many of them many of our own citizens could have been brainwashed to feel that the Rastafarians were enemies of them, and consequently they too would help in attacking our brothers and sisters.
Yeah. I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is fine, fine. I said I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am.
From this time after the rebellion, land was given free to several pastors around St. Thomas. This land was not given to those who had been enslaved, but to the heads of the religious communities. In turn, these clergymen would set up free villages for those in need.
Don't underestimate my ability. Don't definite my character.
Welcome to the music of Jamaican history.
Leonard P. Howell, as we all have that history to cherish, is one of the four fathers and the forerunners within the Rastafari movement.
It's my master's will. I see the sun shining today. Don't know what it's gonna bring. You see, I give thanks to come what's made. Of my meaty morsels, I surely thankfully receive. Ain't gonna sit down here, cry, worry, no grief, yeah.
The people who mainly prospered and made up these populations were the first Rastas. These new, free-thinking men who followed Leonard Howell's ideals. This newly developed quasi-religion, Rastafari, would be based on these aforementioned Indian religious concepts and administered for Rastafari. The music of Jamaican history.
Helping someone who works often in I gave a little air, I gave a little there, and I keep a little for myself.
He brings home with him a rich and profound vision. But how do you reconcile Marx and the Bible, Dada and Garvey, Gandhi and the Black Jews? And how to create a promised land in colonial Jamaica in the 1930s?
Helping someone who works often in it's my master's will that I see the sun shining today. Don't know what it's gonna bring, but
At this time in 1938, Sligoville was one of such first free villages and was very prosperous in being self-sufficient. Others sprang up, and Rastas were mainly their inhabitants.
Suffer the little children to come unto I, for I is their master. Show them wrong and show them right. You got to live a
The music of Jamaican history.
Leonard Percival Howell. We call him God.
Sweet.
Like the children of Zion, be joyful in their King. When the Lord God your Rastafari, step forward, let us praise His name, praise His name, praise His name. Oh,
This idea about people and freedom was first proposed by Leonard Percival Howell, but dissatisfied the government. Oppressed people under colonialism were not to be free, especially in the Promised Land.
It is said that the sale of fine pearls Howells had acquired on his travels financed the purchase of Pinnacle. In April 1939, Albert Chang purchased Pinnacle. But why did he? Water here was only available for a few months each year, and the land was barren.
You coulda come from Rima or you come from jungle. Coulda come from firehouse or you come from tower.
Roots, rock, reggae, the music of Jamaican history. Leonard Howell, the first Rasta.
You come from America. Coulda come from Europe or you come from Africa. One blood, one blood, one blood.
We do give thanks for the gathering as usual. You don't know, when 1 and 2 and 3 is gathered in His Imperial Majesty name, you know. Jah is always in the midst of I and I. So it's all about the mission, it's all about the journey within Rastafari and the movement of Rastafari. So we say greetings and blessed in the name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, the first, Empress Spinning as a balance.
Hey, come. Do you believe in love? Hey, blow. Hey, blow. This is no joke. You could have be a soldier man or a weather policeman or a weather civilian. Said they will we are one blood, one blood, one blood.
Soon, a new modern free village was to be born. In late 1939, Pinnacle was a 500-acre piece of land that was in St. Catherine's Parish in the foothills of Spanish Town. This property near Sligoville was purchased by Leonard Howell with the help of Albert Chang and Howell's associates. Land, freedom, and love.
Mothers fighting daughters every day. Fathers fighting sons. Sisters 18 sisters.
The Lion of Judah has broken the chain, and we, the black race, are finally free. George V is no longer our king. George V sent his third son down to Africa to bow down to our new king, Rastafari. Rastafari is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The black people will no longer look to George V. Rastafari is their king.
I wanna love you and treat you right. I wanna love you every day and every night. We'll be together with the roof right over our heads. We'll share the shelter.
The music of Jamaican history. At the height of this free village at Pinnacle, about 2,900 people that helped create the largest produce company in Jamaica would ever see. At the height of Pinnacle's existence, this place exported more produce to market than the entire island combined.
Is this love? Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling?
Rastafari never existed at the time of Garvey, but yet still, because of the energy and the force what Leonard P. Howell rose with the teachings of Rastafari, coming from Garveyism, but more strong within a spiritual conviction now. The governments now from the churches now began to warn of the coming of this Rastafari rising. So there was a directive given from that time.
Ganja was also a main cash crop at Pinnacle. It was not only the thing that the government was after. Twice in this establishment, the government had extorted from Pinnacle not only money, of which Pinnacle had their own bank and currency, but everything of value by the English.
They no longer struggled trying to grow vegetables and instead focused all their efforts on the forest of ganja that rose around them. The indentured Indian laborers had brought the herb to the island, and many of Rastafari's practices are inspired by Howell's admiration of that community.
Roots, rock, reggae, the music of Jamaican history.
Even the term Collie-bud originates from Cali-bud, which was the best bud of the plant, which was donated to the goddess Kali.
On May 22nd, 1954, early in the morning, armed English police raided Pinnacle. They burned down the huts and plantations there. Over 100 men went to prison from that raid on Pinnacle, mostly on charges of ganja. This idea of independence, self-reliance, and financial growth from within was terrifying to the government and to Bustamante. Setting up their own bank was in the Promise Key, the very document written by Howell under a false name. In 1950, Jamaica was not even independent, so the idea of independence was out of the question and a threat to the crown. Imagine an independent state in a non-independent country. This was the essence of his system, where everyone lived as one, working together against Babylon. This is why he was a threat to the authorities. This is why he was treated badly and committed to prison and the asylum again. Welcome to the music of Jamaican history.
I'm taking losers down through my life, down through my life, yeah. Guess how quickly I had to buy.
We, as Rastafari, give praises to Haile Selassie because he is the greatest black man that ever walked the face of the earth.
African herb man, why linger on? Just concentrate, cause your heaven lives on. Retired slave men will look with the scorn, with the transplanted heart.
50 years have passed, and Rasta way of life has become the first global cultural phenomenon with millions of adepts on every continent. So why has Leonard Howell been banished from the history books?
Welcome to the music of Jamaican history. Pinnacle was fully dismantled in 1958 as Leonard Percival Howell never assumed the matter of registering the property. It was lost. The property was then sold, and the new owner sent vigilantes to disrupt the inhabitants and burn what was left.
Now, to ensure the Rastafari don't become a strong force within the movement of black liberation. So it was these activism that really laid the foundation and helped lay the foundation of the Rastafari movement.
But Alexander Bustamante was not successful as he had planned. Although Pinnacle was no longer a Rasta stronghold, the 3,000 people it had were dispersed into the ghetto and the city streets.
It would be finally destroyed in 1958, and its inhabitants scattered over the world will carry the message.
Baby, I've got music that's gonna lay low. Since you thought I'll never let you go.
Bakawal, the old Indian village of Babachawari, now became the center for Rastas, or the epicenter for the Rastafarian movement in and around Kingston. Welcome to the music of Jamaican history. New leaders now became very important to the Rastafarian culture. Shortly after Pinnacle, in 1959, all eyes were on a Rasta convention, and they awaited the arrival of Leonard Howell, but he never showed.
So that manifestation of the coronation of His Imperial Majesty November 2nd, 1930 actually energized and generated that sort of activism for the first real movement in the Rastafari faith, when you had four prominent elders, Leonard P. Howell, Archibald Dunkley, Robert Hine, you know, as one of the three, and I think the other one was Hibbert, Joseph Hibbert.
You get the charges, face the punishment. Yeah.
This is for all the jungle massive, the junglist them out there.
Yeah. It will pull you down as fast and now you think. So watch out if you get the link.
The music of Jamaican history.
Man, oh man, hotter than sharp, as I would say. You hit the man for 3 million right through thirds. Cool breeze ain't that baby cold, you know.
These new leaders would take control of the newly assembled Rasta denominations. Many of these conventions would be convened and was spread with a vengeance with new music. Out in Trenchtown, young pointy-nosed Jamaican had proclaimed that he was a much tougher gong. Bob Marley had now convinced himself and the world about Rastafari.
It is urgent that before the last witnesses pass on, we tell the story of the seaman whose message and whose name Bob Marley borrowed, Leonard Gong Howell.
Good breeze in the heart of my track. Baba they did on my Baba shop. Real cool as I was saying.
Them shaky, them nervous, and the whole place a crying.
See this Baba hit the man for 3 million right with the earth to the diamond. Cool breeze, I would say. Baby, don't be cool enough.
The music of Jamaican history. Through his music, this would be spread around the island and to the world. New music would emerge in Kingston. Since the 1940s, drummers would fuse their music with jazz musicians. With the help of Jamaica's Count Ozzy, helped to create this new music that was symbiotic with the Rasta culture, ska.
From long time, everyone a fire from Babylon. We come from Bashanti. Fire with the blaze from long time. Cause we won't know the hypocrite, the parasite, this line. Cause we sick of them story.
With the help of Count Ozzy and his link with these musicians, ska would be known now as the music of independence. As this newfound independence took control of the country as Jamaica breaks away from England in 1962, the new Prime Minister, William Alexander Bustamante, wages small wars on the Rastas. In Pinnacle, they wanted to kill off the Rastas. In Montego Bay, they slowly rounded up the Rastas. All over Jamaica, if you had dreadlocks, you were hunted by the government. Roots, rock, reggae, the music of Jamaican history. This new wave of violence through Jamaica fired up the music, and a slower version of ska to what was then known as rock steady turned into reggae music.
Fire with the blaze from long time. Everyone a fire from Babylon. We come from Bashanti. Fire with the blaze from long time. Cause we won't know the hypocrite, the parasite, this line. Cause we sick of them story. Sick of them story, we sick of them story.
With the help of Bob Marley, along with countless others and their music, not only did this envelop Jamaica, but the outlying islands and the whole Caribbean.
Promises is all them given. Say them ready now to help us and them willing.
Welcome to the music of Jamaican history.
And the youth them out there craving for the shilling. Youth them graduate and can't get no employment. No money no in them pocket, them can't get no enjoyment. But it easier for a dry cheese to be a fruit than for them ya eat and ya to tell you the truth. So me sick of them story.
Mr. Howell's land is from shore to shore. And the judge said, what do you mean? And he said, Mr. Howell's land is from sea to sea. And the judge said, am I sitting on Mr. Howell's land? And he said, oh yes, judge.
Sick of them story, me sick of them story. Babylon only take away, only know to subtract. Yes, we sick up, me say we tired of that. Mr. Fat Cat, Mr. Fat Rat. Only come here so and I take me people for idiot. Them a curse, cause everything them say would have get better, get worse. And no for slavery, we no get reimbursed. Rastafari come here so no pit nor nurse. Cause them no put Rastafari first, so we sick of them.
Thanks for listening to the music of Jamaican history. I am your host, Joseph A. Rickard Jr., saying goodbye, and join us again next time on the music of Jamaican history.
Sick of them story, we sick of them story. Sick of them story, sick of them story, we sick of them story. Sick of them story. Now build up no hospital, them now build no training school. Now build up no factory for the youth, them govern and rule. Nuclear armament is what them invest in. Have the youth them stressing from the start, the end back to the beginning. No rope, no light, not a water in a me pipe. But no one hear no bag attack, we don't get twist up me tribe. Babylon rule when them divide, so I'm running for my life. Me now go see a ampere the price. Cause me sick of them story, sick of them story. Sick of them story, sick of them story, me sick of them story. Sick of them story, sick of them story, me sick of them story. Sick of them story, sick of them story, me sick of them story. Sick of them story, sick of them story, me sick of them story.